Good evening, everybody. It's once again Ted the Speed Learner, and of course, since I poked a little fun at One Direction, of course I have to follow up with Taylor Swift and her song 22. So let's go ahead and go through this, shall we? Now, 22, I thought maybe it might be a piece of her locker combination, maybe a portion of her dress, or possibly the answer to the meaning of life. Whoops! That's 42. I forgot about that. That comes from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you want to know the meaning of life, of course, it's 42. At least that's what they said anyway. Anyway, let's go on here. Now, she had mentioned hipsters. Now, for those of us who lived in the 1970s, we knew about things called hippies. Now, what is a hippie? Well, a hippie is a guy with very long hair ingesting large quantities of hallucinogenic substances such as cocaine, heroin, and LSD. Now, a hipster, on the other hand, is a teenager that grew up in the 1990s. Now, this is a gal that has pretty much grown up in the 21st century. It's amazing that she did the actual research to find out what these people back in the 1990s actually looked like. Let me tell you something. I lived in the 1990s. They weren't all that great. Okay, there was a few television shows that were really kind of nice. Other than that, it was kind of a washout. Of course, the 80s also was pretty much a washout for me too, except the early 80s, which really were nice. But the latter part of the 1980s and the whole 1990s were a complete bomb to me. Oh well. Anyway, then she starts talking about having breakfast at midnight. What are we, having bowls of cereal now at midnight? You have a particular preference in cereal? I was actually watching the video itself, and in the video you see this great big cake. Now the thing is about this cake, they didn't actually show the cake before it got divided up. That would have been more interesting to have seen. There you go. But as far as I'm concerned, chocolate and vanilla swirl cake is not a qualification for a breakfast food. When I'm thinking breakfast food, I'm thinking oatmeal, pancakes, or possibly breakfast cereal. That's my thinking. Okay. And then she talks about falling in love with strangers. If this is a slumber party, as she appears to have this, okay, the thing is, are we having a co-ed slumber party? Are we old enough to do that? Have to think about that one. Okay, and then she talks about mixed emotions. She's feeling kind of isolated. She is not. She's kind of confused. Okay, she's not really sure if she's elated or if she's depressed, and she's feeling all this at the same time. That's a train wreck. Okay, so anyway. Anyway, let's see. Now the thing is, in the video, she is wearing a hat. I was kind of wondering what kind of a hat that was. Where did she buy it? How much did she pay for that hat? I mean, you know, these are designer trendy clothes, so you might want to ask questions like that. Okay. And, of course, she proceeds on with this slumber party, and she's talking about how pathetic it is, and yet it is so pixie dust magical type thing. All at the same time, are you kidding? It makes me wonder if you're not doing a little LSD at this point. Or maybe a little LDS, just like they were saying in Star Trek. Yeah, anyway. Okay, and she mentions deadlines. Okay, what kind of a deadline are you talking about here? Are these homework assignment deadlines? Is this college research paper deadlines? What? You don't ever actually say. Okay. And she says that she is feeling like she's 22 years old. Okay. I've been 22, and I tell you what, when you get to be that age, you don't want to feel like 22. You want to feel like you're 15 again. Trust me. Even now, I want to feel like I'm 15, not, well, what I really am. Anyway, I'm sure a lot of you people already know how old I am, so therefore, let's go on here. She's saying everything will be fine if somebody is next to her. This would be a significant other that she apparently has met. The thing is, yeah, really, well, what happens at this slumber party if suddenly you have an earthquake or a tornado comes by or something like that? Is it really going to be okay then? So, yeah, anyway. Let's see. And this person sitting next to her apparently doesn't know her too well, but she is figuring that he probably wants to get to know her. Well, the thing is, well, that's a good guess, but you might want to find out for sure. You might find out he probably doesn't want to know anything about you. He just happened to be convenient and sitting by. There you go. Okay, if you are up until midnight at night, the last thing you want to do is dance. Okay? And I know what I'm talking about because Eric Clapton sang a song After Midnight, and if you ever listen to that, you will understand why you don't really want to be dancing at that late at night anyway. But even at that, you're talking about being 22 years old. Let me tell you something, 22-year-olds, they start the downhill spiral, and yeah. Anyway. Okay. A place crowded with too many cool kids. Let me tell you something, all you have to do is go to a computer lab and you will find the most uncool kids you've ever seen in your life, but they will be good friends, I can tell you that. So if you feel like that you're in a place where you have too many cool kids around, go to a computer lab and you will be much better off. Okay? Okay. Now, how can you be dreaming if you're not sleeping? That kind of confuses me. How do you dream and not sleep? Okay, maybe it's a daydream. I'm not really for sure. But anyway, she is wearing a hat in the video. I was kind of wondering who made the hat, how much she paid for it. I'm sure that was a designer hat. Okay. And I don't know whether I mentioned this or not, but they actually have this cake, and I didn't qualify that as breakfast food. They didn't actually show it before it got cut up. I would have loved to have seen it that way. The sunglasses they're wearing, what kind of UV protection do they provide? Now, they also showed these gals sitting next to a pool. Do they wear sunscreen? And if so, what's the SPF on that sunscreen? They never mentioned that either. Okay? Alrighty. And then she starts again with how she is confused about how she feels. And then, of course, she talks about how pathetic things are, but how happy they are all at the same time. And then she's trying to forget all those sad moments in her life. Okay. Okay, and then, of course, she goes back into talking about how she feels like she's 22. Let me tell you something. Once you reach 22... you don't want to feel 22 anymore. You want to feel 15 again. Trust me. Okay. Okay, so again, we're back at the slumber party. She doesn't like the scene, so she goes and just leaves. She declares that she's not going to be sleeping. Well, let me tell you something. You get to the point where you're not sleeping overnight, you will crash in the morning. And that's no fun. Trust me. Okay. Now, there were balloons at the pool. How big were they? More importantly, were they filled with helium or hydrogen? That could be a very big thing to think about. Who manufactured the balloons? Are they rubber? Okay. Were they made from the sap of a rubber plant or something else? Might be a pretty important detail to know, especially if somebody around there is allergic to rubber. Okay. So, okay, let's see. And then she says that the person that's sitting next to her looks like bad news, but she wants him anyway. If he looks like bad news, ditch him and find somebody else. Okay, oh, and those headphones. Oh, we gotta know where those headphones came from. Those are the bomb. Wow. I've seen some nerdy headphones in my life, but that, yeah, that takes the cake. Now, as for the surfboard, how big was the surfboard? How well does it work? Does Taylor Swift know how to surf? That's never answered. I was confused in the video at first about whether they were sitting next to a sunset or sunrise. Now that I've watched the video completely, I can tell you that was a sunset. The question is, what was the temperature at that time of day? Was it a really hot day? Was it finally cooling down? Or was it just so muggy it just kept being hot the rest of the night? But anyway, there is my unbelievable commentary on the video 22. Whew. Wow. Let's see what everybody has to say about all this. That'll be kind of interesting. I will tell you more in a future video. Stay tuned.